Just because you write romance in your novel does not necessarily make you a romance author. I am known by my fans for writing really intense romance scenes inside of my novels. I have it everywhere throughout everything I write because I love it, but I'm not a romance author. I'm an author who uses romantic elements and rather heavily inside of my stories, but I'm not classified as a romance author despite having some of the best romance out there according to fans. So what do we need to know about this? There's actually a very clear definition given to us by RWA, the Romance Writers of America, where they break down what qualifies a romance author. And they are very clear in saying that when it comes to this, and you can actually see this on their website, there are two basic elements that comprise every romance novel: a central love story and an emotionally satisfying and optimistic ending. Well, right there, that cancels me out because I only sometimes write those nice endings and sometimes I'm quite vicious. Now, they go on to say a central love story where the main plot centers around the individuals falling in love and struggling to make the relationship work. A writer can include as many subplots as they want as long as the love story is the main focus of the novel. And that really is what it boils down to. In my novels, and perhaps in yours, you have more plot than romance. For a romance to be considered a romance, it has to centralize around the relationship. It's not the extra things. Think more along the lines of Nicholas Sparks, where it's all about the relationship and then some plot happens. You get some story, it's an interesting story, but it's mostly about the relationship coming together, breaking apart, and coming back together, right? We have to figure out how to make that work. And it has to end on either a happily ever after or a happy for now. It's got to end in a nice way. It has to be the central point of the story. For me, I have a plot. I've got a whole storyline, and the romance is the bonus. My stories could work if I took the romance out because it has that plot. It has those strong storylines. So I am not a romance writer. I just include romance in what I am writing. They go on to have a conversation about an emotionally satisfying and optimistic ending. In a romance, the lovers who risk and struggle for each other and their relationships are rewarded with emotional justice and unconditional love. Romance novels may have any tone or style, be set in any place or time, and have varying levels of sensuality ranging from sweet to extremely hot. These settings and distinctions of plot create specific subgenres within the romance fiction. So what it comes down to is if your book is all about the relationship and the plot is just the bonus that you sprinkle in, you're probably a romance writer. And if your story has a plot and the romance is sprinkled in, you're probably writing in some other genre, sci-fi, fantasy, contemporary, whatever. You have to understand where you fall. Now, just because you're not classically defined as a romance writer doesn't mean you can't have heavy romantic elements. I do, most of us do, because that's what sells and that's what we love to read and that's what we love to write. We have that in there, but we have to understand we don't qualify as a romance book. And if we mislabel the books that we're doing, we misspecify what we have written, that's going to cost us readers because if somebody's coming for a romance and they're just getting some of that, or they're getting all this extra plot, that's going to reflect poorly in your reviews, in your sales, and what they're saying about you online. So you have to understand where you're classified. You have to be very clear about where your book fits in, and you can talk about the strong romantic elements. By all means, that's what sells for most people. But you have to understand that it doesn't count as a romance novel, especially if you've got that extra plot, especially if you have an ending that is less than happily ever after or happy for now. So think those things through, understand what your book is, and understand what your book is before you write it, because that is going to help navigate a lot of problems as you're writing, as you're editing, and then of course as you are marketing your novel as well. Not everybody who writes romance is a romance author. I'm not. I have a lot of people who think I am, and I was asked to write a romance novel as someone who is not actually a romance author. And so I'm doing it for a special reason. You're going to see that coming up soon, but it is an entirely different world. It is not the same thing as the novels that I write. And so I am having to be extremely mindful of the story I'm crafting to make sure it fits into the romance genre rather than the sci-fi, the fantasy, the other realm that I am happening to be writing in. And you should be aware of this as well. Questions, go ahead and drop it down below. I do recommend that you were checking out the RWA site if you were considering writing a romance novel or trying to classify your book and trying to figure out which one it is. I'll link it down below in the caption for you. and follow along for daily videos helping you navigate the world of publishing, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make this your most profitable year ever while you are living out your best life and also living out your author dreams, because your business is working on your behalf without you having to be hands-on every minute of every day. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.